Hi all, this is Dana here. In this video I'm actually going to be showing you how to do gridding on your fabric, but instead of using a pencil or a marker like I did in my last video, a link to that will be in the video description below, I'm actually going to be showing you using fishing line. So yeah, fishing line is really neat in the sense, like, you can get this stuff, I think it's called Easy Grid, or something along those lines. It's basically a red, thin, similar to fishing line that's actually meant for needlework. You can get it at needlework shops or you can get it online, but it is a little bit more expensive, or sometimes a lot more expensive depending on where you're buying it from, than just using fishing line. So that's why I'm showing you using this fishing line. So this is, as you can see, it's 8-pound test. So if you don't know fishing, that just means it's strong enough to catch a fish up to about 8 pounds before breaking. So it's really fine. You can see it's quite thread-like. I chose like a dark blue. I would have chosen red, except that the shop I was in didn't have any red that wasn't like super expensive at the time, so I just chose the dark blue. So I'm just trying to focus this on it so you can see the color. Yeah, so I'm using this dark blue, and what I've done is I'm going to be doing this little sample pattern, gridding for this little sample pattern here. This is going to be a new freebie on my website shortly. So you can see it's 60 stitches tall and 40 across. I'm not sure how well you can see it in the video, but you can see here's the darker lines in each pattern for every 10 grid of 10 squares. So every pattern will have that grid of 10. Occasionally it'll be 8x8 grid if it's like an easy read pattern or something like that, but usually it's 10x10. So I'll be showing you 10x10 in this video, and then of course you can adapt it to whatever pattern you're actually stitching from. The point of gridding is actually to mark out those lines, those grid lines that are on your pattern in your fabric, and you can do it either by pen or pencil like I did in the last video, or you can use the fishing line, and that way you can just pull it out when you're finished, and your stitches and your needle can't penetrate the fishing line because it's so fine, so it won't get caught up or anything like that. If you try to use sewing thread, your needle can puncture the threads a little bit, and then it gets stuck, and then you end up with sewing thread in your piece, which is sometimes not exactly fun to get out. So what I'm going to be doing is I've cut this thread twice the length of this. I'm going to be doing 2 loops up and down, and then just leaving it at the top, and then going back and forth with the grid, but I'll show you with this one. This piece of fabric is just big enough for this little piece here. I'm not leaving too much margin on it because I'm not planning on really framing this or anything. I did a video about centering your fabric, which tells you how to figure out how big your fabric should be before starting. So if you want to look at that one's in the video description as well. I usually leave 2 to 3 inches border around my pieces before starting them. This one, it's this little piece of scrap I had, and it just happened to fit this design perfectly, so I thought I would use that as a demonstration. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to assume that there's the grid line that's on this outer edge here. You can't actually see it on the pattern. When it's printed you might be able to, but that's your zero line. So I'm going to be doing that one as well, and then every 10th one. So in this case I'll be doing 1, 2, 3, 4. I may do a 5th one, but by that point you can count from there as well. So I'm going to be starting down here. So there's a couple ways you can do this. You can go, start from the back just to make it a little easier. But what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be going up and down every 5. You can go up 10, down 10 across the back, up 10, down 10, whatever's easier. I'm just going to be doing 5s just for the sake of this video. You can do whatever floats your boat, as my cousin always says. You know, you can do up 2, down 8, whatever you like, but I'm going to do 5 just for the sake of this video. So here we go. So you got here, so you got 1, 2, 3, 4, down on the 5th. And then you're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 up on the 5th. If you want to flip it over to make it easier for yourself, you can. So it was down on the 5th, 6, 7, 8, 9. So it's coming up on the 10th. And obviously you're not using knots, so if you want to just hang on to that at the bottom there. Yeah, I'm just going to make sure the camera's in focus for this. Sorry if the camera moves a little bit. It's actually on a swinging arm right now, and I'm just experimenting with this particular little stand, so if it wobbles and stuff too much, I apologize. Alright, so again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And again, make sure that you're still hanging onto the back of that so don't pull it through accidentally. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you're basically just going to keep doing that back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. So I would go all the way up, turn around, count 10 over, and go all the way back down the exact same way. The good thing is once you start doing this, and you can actually start to see where your rows are, so you don't have to keep counting as much. So what I'll do is I'm going to turn the video off. I'm going to finish doing the vertical ones, and I'll start the horizontal ones, and you can see how they all line up with each other. I'll be back in a moment. Alright, so we're back now, so you can see here that I've done the vertical ones. Sorry, I'm just going to try to focus that a little bit. So I've done the vertical ones. You can see I've come up from the bottom here, gone across, down, up, down, things like that. These little bits here are just keeping the longer bits out of the way. So the good thing is with this kind of fishing line, or some people use sulky silver as well, it's a type of thread as well, and that doesn't get pierced as well, is you can reuse it. So I mean, that's why I'm keeping them a little bit longer. You can reuse this again later if you don't want to waste it, which is really, really cool. So one nice thing about doing it this way. Gridding does take a little bit of time, whether you're doing it by hand, like drawing it on with lines, or whether you're stitching it in, but I mean, it saves you so much time later as far as like figuring out, like, say, where in your pattern, like, just going to focus that on there. So, like, say, like, here's a corner here under the E and the A and the T, right in the corner there. There's a corner there. So you're like, okay, well, where's that particular stitch? Okay, it's one in from the top left of that corner. So things like that, it makes your placement a lot more accurate. So it means you're less likely to miscount because you're only literally having to count 10 in between here. And so what I'm going to be doing is just showing you how I continue this going out the other way. The other way is actually a lot faster because you've already got a lot of your points marked here. So again, I'm going to be going up 5, down 5. So here, it's going to zoom in a little bit, just a moment. One thing I did do when I turned the video off is I actually switched out my needle to a milliner's needle. This is a lot finer, and that way it's not going to create little holes in your fabric. I realized my tapestry needle I had was just a little bit too wide, so it was actually creating tiny little holes in the fabric. Like, obviously there's already holes in the Aida fabric, but it was pushing them open slightly more, so then once I took all this out, then you would have seen a string of little tiny holes that were slightly wider than the normal ones. It's usually not a big problem. I mean, once you wash your piece and whatnot, usually that kind of disappears, but it is something just to keep in mind. So that's another reason why I use such fine thread as well. Okay, so going up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you can see I don't even have to count coming the next way. Drop my scissors because the 10 is already there with the next piece. So when you're doing this, like especially when you're first starting out, going up and down and across, you do really want to make sure that you're counting correctly, because the last thing you want to do is spend all this time gridding and realizing later on that you screwed it up because you miscounted somewhere, and instead of a block of 10 somewhere you got a block of 11. And that would just make you cry. Okay. Up, so I'm doing up and 5 down. Alright. And if you're not sure where to start your gridding, do check out the video on centering that I have in the video description below, because that will help you figure out where your placement is going to be. So as far as centering your design on your fabric and making sure you have enough margins and things like that. So do check that one out. Like, for example, if you're leaving a 2-inch border around your finished piece, so your fabric is cut exactly 2 inches on all sides, then the finished size that your pattern dictates, then you can measure in 2 inches, and that's where you would start doing these rows, like 2 inches from the edge of your fabric here and 2 inches this way. Like I said, this is a smaller piece than normal, just because it was a little scrap and I didn't really feel like cutting up into a whole big piece of fabric just for this little sample. Alright, and then again across, so that one probably go down. Yes, this one I can just go. So As you can see, I'm trying to keep them relatively the same, so it's the back end, so it's always going to be these little corners. So I go up, and see here, this is where it starts to get faster, because you can line up with this hole here, so you know that's 5, and then you're lining up with this hole here. So it does get faster once you get your first direction done. Yeah, as you can see, it doesn't actually take, obviously if you're doing a massive piece, like if you're doing something like, you know, poster sized or whatnot, this is going to take some time. I mean, this could probably take you, you know, a day or two, depending on your fabric and how big it is, to grid. But like I said, it will be really, really worth it, because you won't lose your mind from having to count. Like say you got to stitch like 30 stitches over this way, you're not going to lose your mind and accidentally count 29 instead of 30. Going to see where it is according to the little grids printed on your pattern and match them up on your fabrics. That's the whole point of gridding. Alright, so I'm going to stop there for now, so you can see. Alright, so as you can see, so there's your grid. So you can do it so that the lines are going to cross, or however you want to lay this out. I mean, you could go over it again with another layer just to make them bigger, or, you know, however you like it. But see, this way I can see that there's a grid of 10 there. That's a block of 10. That's a block of 10 there. So like I could have done these ones here, or, you know, whatever you like, really. I mean, there's no real rules about how you want to lay out your grid work like this. Some people just do this because they can see there's, you know, from here to here is 10, so they know that that's a block right there. So it is pretty much up to what you want to do. Like I said, you can do like up to and then across 8, so that your little strips here, so you go up to and across 8, so your little strips here are longer and more visible. But yeah, whatever works for you basically. So I'm going to keep doing this, and then that will be the fabric gridded. And then when it comes time to follow my pattern, so say for example the little cupcake here is starting just off sort of 3 stitches in from the top of the first blank corner here. So here's the first blank corner here, the base of the pattern. Sorry, I'm going to try and zoom that in so you can see it in the pattern itself. Okay, so you can see the grid lines here, the darker grid lines. So that would be this one here. So the actual, that blue stitch here, that one little tiny blue stitch, is going to be 3 in, so that's actually going to be right there. So it does make counting a lot easier. It makes your projects, they tend to stitch up a lot faster, and like I said, you're a lot more accurate, so you're spending a lot less time unpicking. I mean, you're still always going to make mistakes. You're human. I mean, it's going to happen. You're, you know, busy with something, or you're not fully paying attention and you miscount. It's going to happen, but with gridding, it's going to make it happen a lot less, and you're a lot more likely to discover that you're like one stitch out of whack a lot faster, because you can see it, and you can see your stitches in relation to this grid that you've put onto your fabric. So that's it for now. Like I said, this is a free pattern that's on my site. If you click on the little button that's going to pop up on the right hand side at the top of the screen there, you can sign up to become a Peacock Lounge member, and you get access to all the free patterns on my site. If you can't see that little button if you're on mobile, then you can actually just go to the video description, and it'll be the first link in the video. But yeah, that's it for now. If you have any questions, please feel free to comment and leave questions or tips that you might have as far as gridding with fishing line, or the proper stuff from the needle workshops. If you have any suggestions for videos you'd like to see, I'm all ears. I love helping people with little problems that they're having. And if you like this video, please thumbs up it and share it if you have friends who might like it, because it really helps get the videos out to other stitchers, and helps you, basically it tells YouTube that this is good information and that other people might find it valuable. So if you can do that, that would be fantastic, and I'll talk to you later. Bye for now!